forces and our first responders. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting for the town council to order.
Call the meeting for the Board of Finance to order.
And we're going to start off first on page 2 of our agenda here, which is going to be...
Is there any public? Walter, is there any public?
Hey, public, Walter? Yeah, I didn't see
Okay.
anybody there.
All
Okay. So we're going to move to the Finance Department budget for fiscal year 22-23. First is going to be page 4 for our books, and we're going to have Greg start off with his deck here, presentation.
Good
And then after the
evening.
presentation, we'll go through revenue and then expenditures and any questions for Greg. Greg?
Okay. Is this on? Okay, now we're on. All right. Finance Department revenues. Essentially, they're all revenues not raised by fees, fines, or taxes. They mainly consist of state revenues, unanticipated revenues, operating transfers in, and the use of fund balance. These categories increased overall by $133,394, primarily due to an increase in state revenue sharing of $302,264 and a loss of ambulance revenue of $187,250 as a result of COVID. This gives you an overview of what the Finance Department is responsible for. We do the annual audit, financial reporting, budget management, compilation and management of financial statements, preparation of the annual and 5-year capital budgets, debt issuance and ratings review, maintaining the general ledger and financial system, that's Munis, accounts payable, purchasing, payroll, compliance with all state, federal, and GASB requirements, all investments, pension management, budget transfers and adjustments, risk management, banking relations, and recording and verifying all town revenues. Continuing on, we maintain records and bank reconciliations for over 30 funds, and each of those funds each have a balance sheet and an income statement. This will, among the larger major funds we manage are the general fund, the town pension, waste management, capital fund, internal service fund, and grants. We maintain records and reconciliations for numerous investment accounts. We oversee over $200 million in assets. We also prepare the annual town report, compile the 5-year capital plan, conduct the annual audit, and provide support for union negotiations. This is our structure. We do all this with 5 people: the director, myself, comptroller, purchasing specialist, accounts payable, and a payroll clerk. On the expenditure side of our budget, the total is $427,189, and the increase, all the lines remain flat except personnel, and the change in the budget is due to negotiated wage increases. That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Greg for the finance budget? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, the 18,500 for the Conference of Municipalities. What does that give us exactly?
That's the dues we pay to CCM. CCM I go to for, also for dues for the Government Finance Officers Association, which there's meetings and exchange of ideas and, a lot of updates for GASB and accounting changes. And CCM,
All 169 towns are part of the Connecticut Conference of
Right.
Municipalities. So not only is it Greg's department, but it's also Mr. Bolero's department, where we do different types of, they'll compound all of the employment figures, all the negotiations with labor contracts, so you can kind of see where everybody lies in. They also help us with different types of partnering with other towns and municipalities when it comes to funding sources. So they're a major resource for all 169 municipalities.
Thank you.
Also, Pete, CCM also provides educational classes online for any governmental officer or volunteer for boards, stuff like that, that you can take advantage of.
And they're also our liaison to some extent with the state, and they inform me and the mayor as, the heads of government, any potential changes in state revenue and the state budgets.
Any other questions for Greg? Thank you, Greg.
I would just like to make one comment if I
Chris?
could.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Just the comment I would like to make is I'm glad we didn't increase our dependence on the waste management fund here. We kept it flat with last year. I knew it was zero, but I know in a year like this it's not feasible, but I appreciate you doing that.
That was the mayor's call.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have the ambulance here. Would you guys like to come up? I know it's not on here, but the ambulance is here.
We're the surprise guests.
Okay. So they're going to be any other town department whose presence is requested. So
Yes.
ambulance.
Nice surprise too, Donna. Thank you.
And just so you know, the numbers for ambulance, you've got them right, Walter? 141? 141,
And
everybody?
214.
And then there'll be 214 for the capital. Okay, Donna?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name's Donna Hespy. I'm the president of New Milford Community Ambulance. We've been around a long time, since 1929. We are a nonprofit volunteer organization that did 3,000 calls last year. We went up 500 from the year before. COVID changed our lives in more ways than one. New Milford Ambulance hit the ground running. We made sure that we had the town covered. It's been a tough 2 years. A lot has gone on. Some days last year we had 16 calls. Other days we might have 6. In our business, so to speak, you never know what you're going to get. Every day is different, and evening, I might say. We lost about 3/4 of our volunteers due to the fact them not volunteering because of age, family members, health issues, jobs wouldn't allow them to volunteer with the ambulance, etc. We have several that are nurses, and they just weren't allowed. So it really hurt us. We've been really reduced in the volunteer staff. Due to increase of call volume from COVID, we had to add on a second crew, and it had to be a 24/7. When you've got 16 calls, one crew is not going to do it. Most of the calls are during the day, but we do get a fair amount at night too. There are 2 crews we have. One's an EMT, one's a medic. The other one are 2 EMTs. What I'd like to do is clarify about the bond that New Milford Ambulance is paying for our headquarters. I think there's a lot of confusion about that. Our headquarters is a town-owned building. We do not own it. We went to the town for a vote because we certainly outgrew where we were. We were down where I don't know what it's called right now, down there on the corner. Thank you. And we went to the town, and they went to a town vote, and the town said yes, that they would bond it for us, okay? That was about 2010, I think, okay? Milford Ambulance at that time, yeah, it's been that long, Tom. New Milford Ambulance offered to pay the bond and the interest for as long as we could, and we even secured an MOU to that effect. This past year, with so many new expenses and also the fact of having that second crew on, we talked to the mayor, and we told them we were at the point where we were going to have to stop paying Last year, we paid 150 of the 187, I think, Greg, right? We just didn't have the extra money. How can we ask the town for money and then expect to pay? Correct. We pay, remember, it's a town building, but we pay for everything else that has to do with the facility. We have phones, internet, cable. We have all the repairs to air conditioning and the heating, sprinkler systems, security, repairs to plumbing, electrical issues, garage door openers, you name it, it goes on. Yard, maintenance, trash, appliances, workman comp. We pay our own workman comp. Leases on equipment, the fees for the lines that run underneath the railroad tracks. Believe it or not, we have to pay something for that every year. We pay all that. Two items that show up in our budget that are actually not part of Milford Ambulance's budget, okay? You're going to see the paramedic service under there. And that is something that the 7-town share. That's what we call our medic for the regional. There's 7 towns that are involved in that. And that is something that does not come underneath our budget. The towns agree to that and they pay for it out of their budget. It's the CMed radio is also another one. That is going to be there every single year. The state mandates that the town has to have it, and it's a radio system. It's the CMed radio system. We technically do use it because we have it in the town. Why not? But the town is required to have that. And I don't even know what the price of that is, to be honest with you. Is it still around 12,000 still? Okay. Here's a little insight. Our total charges for the year for 2021, we actually billed out $2.2 million, okay? I know, big eye opener, huh? Our total receipts for the same period were under 1 million. Our town has a very aging population. So the two words, keywords, Medicare and Medicaid. We did 3,000 calls, okay, but we only did 2,100 transports. The rest are, believe it or not, no patient found. A lot of people with the medical alerts, they accidentally hit them. We go and they're like, oh, hi, as we're at their front door. So obviously that's not considered a call. Patient refusal, lift assist, which we do a zillion of, canceled calls, various standbys, and even presumptions. 77% of the calls that we did were either Medicare or Medicaid. Total billing was 1.8 of that 2.2 million. And we only collected on the Medicare, Medicaid, 684,000 out of that. You can see it really, if we're allowed to bill, the state mandates what you're allowed to bill. Every town, commercial service has to bill the same amount, okay, unless they want to do it for free.
And Donna, can you, for the edification of our council and Board of Finance, can you go into a little bit more into deeper? So for instance, what your cost would be to actually go up to the door, right, and actually serve and have to take someone to either the hospital or to wherever they're going, versus what Medicaid actually gives you?
Okay, I actually have a sheet, I can do that. I tried to bring everything with me, anticipating questions like that. But I'll just finish that paragraph
Sure.
while I'm looking. The total billing, I told you, was 1.8 of the 2.2 million, and we only collected 648. Like I said before, we've got a huge population of senior citizens, which I have nothing against them, trust me, which in turn require more calls. That's where most of our calls are, but we receive less back in billing. Now, watch, I said I have the paper and I won't. I can kind of estimate something in the top of my
If
head.
you could, because this is gonna really be germane to why we're in the position that we're in.
Okay. Here's an idea. We can bill, according to the state, for a regular BLS call. That's basic. We don't need a medic, okay? We can bill $781 for it, which we do. But if it's a Medicare patient, we know we're only going to get back $400, okay? $781, we're only going to get back $400. If it's a Medicaid, which we have a lot of, we only get $267. Let's just use that for an example. For us, it's kind of agreed upon through the state. The average cost to actually take that ambulance and to respond from our facility to the patient's house is approximately $300. That's taking in salary, fuel, the use, the abuse, the miles, and everything else. Now, that's not using any, if they need any bandaging, if they need any meds, if they need any of those type of treatments, but it's still use of all our equipment, whether it's the pulse ox, the stretcher, the defib, whatever it is, that all gets added in also. If we have an ALS call, we can bill $1,240. Medicare gives us $482, okay? If it's Medicaid, remember, $1,240, Medicaid gives us $317. Remember, that's an ALS call that a medic is on. That medic could be there because they had chest pain. It could even be a cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrests, let me tell you, there's a lot flying around in the way of meds, using different leads, using a lot of stuff that's disposable stuff that we have to replace. I actually have to be honest, we've never added up because they're always different. You never know what you're using. But just the use of the defib pads, okay? Defib pads aren't $10. I don't even know what they're up to. The last I knew they were up to, does anybody remember, $50 or something? Every time you use, so you start adding that all up. And I mean, if it's an ALS call and we're getting a Medicaid person, $317, $300 for us to go out the door. Now we collect all of $17. Use an epi, okay? Epinephrine, they have to give it to him to hopefully jumpstart the heart. You do those things, we spend a lot more. So we're kind of doing that call for free, so to speak. Okay? Does everyone understand that? Medicare, and like I say, I'm kind of beating that up a little bit, but it hurts us. There's other towns that are like, wow, like how come you don't collect as much money? They don't have the aging population we do. I'm amazed. This year, I'm making it a point to pay attention to every single call. And I know the two of you will nod. When the call goes out, 85, 93, God bless them, I love it, 90-some, 100-something. But that's the majority of our calls are the elderly, but we're not able to collect the money. We can bill them, but Medicare, Medicaid just don't pay that amount.
And Donna, also for the edification of our council and our Board of Finance, there are calls where somebody calls you because they've slipped or they've fallen, and that's a cost to you, but you can't charge.
Yep. They stay in their wisdom, did say that, okay, now when you do these non-transport ones, it's a very token, I think it's $100 and some odd or something. It's a very small amount. They finally realized that that's happening a lot. And again, it's like, help me, I've fallen. Trust me, I always laughed at the commercial. Don't laugh at the commercial because we're doing that all the time. They just slid out of, that nice recliner they have, that they have the little button, and it gets up into that position. And then they have, as I call them, the fuzzy socks on. And it gets up in that position, and they go in the fuzzy socks, and they're flat on their back. And obviously, if they're using that type of chair, they probably can't get up on their own. So maybe they have their medical alert and they press and they ask us. We walk in, get them up, put them back in their chair, put the chair back down. And if it's me, I say, you can't use these socks anymore. You have to get the ones with the little grippies on the bottom or the same thing's going to happen. Trust me, if I had a nickel for every time I said that, we all do. But unfortunately, when you're getting out of that chair, you better not be wearing your fluffy socks.
Any questions for Donna on the operations? Katie?
So Donna, I just want to confirm for everybody, they understand that when you receive a call that someone has fallen and say the wife can't pick the guy up or vice versa, whatever, you still send, you don't just send anybody. You have to send the ambulance and 2 people, right? So not only are you getting nothing in return, because that person, by the time you get there, might A, refuse to have you come in and help them, or maybe gotten up already, but those 2 people in that ambulance are now
Tied up for that time.
somewhere else in the largest town in the state when you need somebody on the other side, right? So there's a lot of things going on with this.
Yeah, there's a lot. I've been in EMS for 25 years, okay? And I swear to you that every single day I learn something new. There's so many ins and outs and protocols, and just every day, the new people who come in, I always say to them, okay, you took your EMT class, right? You got it all down. You passed your test. Now the real world. Come out on the rig, and nothing you learned is going to be that way. Because when someone has a cardiac arrest, it's not nice and neat. They're not laying on the floor already for you. No, you've got to yank them off the bed and put them on the floor. And it's not always very neat, you know. Maybe you got to throw a bunch of towels down so you can even get close to them. It's just unbelievable. It's EMS. Every call is different. I always tell them, every single call is different. You never know what you're going to get. But unfortunately, the lift assist, Katie, yes, that ties us up a lot. And we have to send an ambulance for the simple reason we can't say, oh, the wife called and said he slipped out of the chair.
Right.
Well, guess what? Maybe the wife has dementia. We're talking, again, elderly people. She doesn't realize that he's got a laceration on the back of his head and there's a pool of blood under him. That happens all the time.
Right.
So we're hoping we just only have to go there and pick them up, but there are many, many times when that foot looks a little different than the other one, meaning he's probably, blown out his hip. He's dislocated it. So, but she wouldn't know that. So we always have to go, hoping it's just an easy lift assist, but sometimes it's not.
Walter?
Yeah, there's big differentials between your billing and Medicare reimbursement. Does that same thing hold true for private insurance, or they pretty much pay 100%?
One of the things is, when I was saying to you, 77% of the calls are basically Medicare. Then the other 23% is what we call self-pay, because there are some self-payers out there, or commercial. And what you're looking to question is...
Do the commercials give you the same
Yes.
reimbursement, the full reimbursement?
No, as a rule, they almost pretty much pay whatever the amount is.
Okay.
And self-pay, that's always a gamble
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
We
that's
have
what-
people
I
that don't
understand
have
that.
insurance, and, we get things like, well, we'll pay $10 a month, okay. We have them, believe it or not. Our billing company says, they send in their $10, and sometimes it's $10 in an envelope that gets sent to the billing company. That happens also. It's a
But you
little
serve
bit.
everybody, no matter what, and that's what you do. So
Yeah.
you have to, and you do it, and you do it well, so it's,
And as we can see, we talked about this at the council level for many months now. We were moved plan, as Donna just said, to a paid service. As you can see, that's the escalator cost that were shown today in operations. Does anybody have any other questions? Tom?
For the last 13 years, I remember first hearing Carolyn Hagelin talk about the silver tsunami. Now,
Yes.
in the last 13 years, I've become part of it.
Yeah, mine is under here.
Has your percentage of Medicare and Medicaid billing been about the same for the last 10 or 12 years?
We're increasing.
Based on the silver
Absolutely. The
tsunami?
tsunami is here, and it hit a while ago. Absolutely.
Where were you, 77% this year? Can you,
To be honest, I only see it getting larger,
Right.
because I'm not sure, but I think there's housing going in that may have something to do with senior housing also. There's some we never see the people, and then there's other ones, it's just one call. I mean, I hate to pick, but Butterbrook, Glen Eyre, yeah, we're there a lot.
a lot?
We, our billing revenue that we collect covers one crew and our expenses. And the reason why we've asked for the other 500,000 is because that would cover our second crew. Last year was tough in the sense that, with COVID and everything, we didn't know, but I mean, we went up 500 calls. I anticipate we're not gonna go down in calls, if anything. I mean, today I think they're out on 8 calls already. It's still, we got a ways to go yet. But the other day, 16. So you just don't know. We couldn't do it with one.
No.
As it is with 2, they were hopping over one another trying to, cover everything.
For many years, we talked about eventually getting to where we would have to pay. And I think COVID pushed
And
us
Tom,
over
we've
the
been
edge.
paying already for quite a while.
I
It's
know.
just, we got covered last year because got the COVID funds for us. So actually, we're doing the same thing as we did last year, but last year it kind of wasn't a big deal because we got it out of COVID funds. This year, it's here. We don't have COVID funds to cover it.
Well, listen, you folks have done an amazing job
Thank you.
for as long as I've been here.
Thank you.
And I know you will continue to
Thank
do
you.
it. And we,
I
think we can speak for everybody across the town.
Thanks.
We greatly appreciate
Thank you.
all that the ambulance folks do.
Yeah, I just have one last thing. Vehicle repairs is a very big thing. And unfortunately, today I just heard that we had a state inspection on our 3 vehicles. And trust me, we spend a lot of money on repairs on our rigs. But you gotta remember, these rigs get used and abused, not intentionally, but they do. They're up and over curbs and down driveways that God shouldn't wanna go down them because they got such big potholes, but we gotta go down them. So they really get used a lot. We have 2 new rigs, and we were very fortunate. We got an anonymous donor of $130,000, which is awesome. But by the time we got that, by the time I went to order, my estimate of $130,000, I have to add another $30,000 to it to get it, believe it or not. We all know car prices went nuts. Well, guess what? The Sprinters went nuts also, so that happened. And then today, like I found out the state inspection, we've got, I don't know, gouges in a frame, leaking radiator, oil leak, rack and pinion, you name it. It's just, they get used. And once an ambulance gets to a certain age, ugh, then it's just tough. So I'm praying that the new ones come in soon. But thank you, COVID, we're probably not going to get them to the end of the year. So I am anticipating we're going to have big repair bills. But this year's budget, it's different than anything before in our whole history. Life is different, as we all know. You know, we've made many adjustments to purchasing and everything, but we've got a lot of calls, and I keep picking on the senior citizens, and guess what? I'm one of them. So I understand, you know, you got to think that Medicare and the Medicaid, it's really hurting us. The billing revenue just, the billing revenue just unfortunately doesn't cover it. So that's why we've finally, after all these years, our budget's always been a minuscule one, and we've just got to ask for it. And, you know, we're asking the town to help us to continue, you know, to provide this service, and I think we do an outstanding and a very professional. Thank you.
An amazing job. I think
Thank
most
you.
of the people in this room have either been in one of your
We
ambulances or
really
have family
try
and
hard.
friends.
And
Do an amazing job.
Thank you. And even though we have a paid staff, we have certain things that they must do. And as a rule, I find them all very, very nice, very helpful, very polite. We get lots of phone calls saying, you know, that crew and those 2 girls that were here, you know, I'm talking in that sweet voice from the sweet old lady. They were so nice. We get them, and that's worth $1 million.
My mother's made that call a few times.
Yeah.
Any other question for Donna when it comes to operations? Sal?
I just have a question about the state. So you said you're not recouping all the money from the Medicare and stuff, right? So is state compensating you somehow for that? Because they're regulating all that stuff throughout the state, correct?
That's why we have the law, Sal. That's why we got to supplant it with our own funding.
Yeah, but the state is telling us
You would
what
think,
to
but no,
do.
the state they set those, that's the amount that they set. I did hear, and I didn't pursue it, and I don't know when, if, what, or anything, but I did hear that they were talking about maybe doing an increase. Now, the way the state does it, sorry, I'm picking, you know, an increase might be $10 more, which is like, wow, you know, it's not gonna do much for us.
Because there's a lot going on with the 911 calls, right? For instance, I was part of the team back in the days to design 911 network or security in New York City.
Sure.
And at some point, they started to look at the calls that we probably don't have this problem here, but the fake calls. So let's say in the city of New York City, you have, I don't know, 12 million calls a year,
Yeah.
for instance. Every time you have to send someone, you have to pay them, and as you said, all the maintenance, everything else. So, and we'll probably have something like this too, to the lesser extent. And I was hoping that state at least coughs up some money and says, okay, everybody's facing the same thing, especially that they're putting the regulations.
And you've got to remember, every town is different. Every ambulance service is different. That's like another whole, you don't even want me to get into that. But it depends on the town. The town may have, it may be a young and up-and-coming town, and they don't get the Medicare and the we do.
Population is given. This is it. What it is. I mean, we're not going to change it. We're aging. Myself too. I'm getting to the silver line. But thanks so much for your help, appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, just for an awareness, as some people, this is their first municipal budget, you're gonna hear a lot more of that the state demands something and doesn't pay for it. They want us to do it, but there's no funds for it, or there's minuscule funds. Right. There's minuscule funds from them.
Same thing with the Board of Ed, even more so.
And if we could turn real quick to our, oh, Joe, I'm sorry.
I have a question, and I'm sorry, maybe I haven't been paying as close of attention as I should.
Shame on you.
But, you know, when I'm going over the budget, you know, a red flag for me is when you see like, you know, actual budgeted 2020, 90,000, 90,021. Oh my God, you know, 2022, you know, adopted budget 200,000, actuals for 6 months, 400,000. This is entirely because of staffing.
Yes, that's a
So-
huge jump.
Now, I know historically
There's a
there
new
has been
line in
lot-
there, paid staffing.
Yeah,
That's
I-
brand new for this year. We've never
I
had.
saw it on the next page,
Yeah.
after my, you know, right, after my ears smoked for a minute, I was like, what is going on, right? So, I know that the ambulance was mostly volunteers. Was it, like, do we not have the volunteers anymore?
No,
They just left?
no, because it's such a dedication and it's so time consuming. The training, we ran EMT classes, and what we did was we were training them to become EMTs. Oh yeah, we're going to join the Milford Ambulance. Yay, thank God, you know. I can think of the last two. I'll use them as examples. And we were like thrilled. They were young. They wanted to do calls. We were like, yay. And then they found out that there's something called commercial ambulance, and they pay. Should I do this for free, or should I do it for the commercial ambulance and get paid? Guess what they chose?
And we paid the trend up.
Well, we make them pay, but unfortunately, if they're still, we actually reimburse them for the EMT class if they've been with us for a year and they're a member in good standing and they do calls. Well, you know, it always goes just beyond that, and they get reimbursed, and then they're commercial.
So, I mean, I would think that there would be a source of, you know, more volunteers, right? And they're just not.
They're not there.
They're just not there. I
And
mean,
it's
like-
the same with everyone. I've asked, saying, are we doing something wrong? Do we need to do something different? Trust me, we've gone down
And
this
you've got like
road.
nursing programs at like, you know, Western or Naugatuck or something like that.
These are to become an EMT.
Because-
Right now,
it's actually
they're-
hard for nurses to get their hours in. I mean, and that was how my mom did it.
Yeah.
When I lived in Danbury's, my mom became an EMT just to, you know, while she was in school, even though it was volunteer,
But
just to
that's
rack up
common.
the hours so that, because it counted towards her nursing.
That's common to have EMTs. Right now, we have EMTs, members, okay, or members of the Vintech staff, okay? They became EMTs when we ran our program in the high school. I have three of them that I can think of fast, off the top of my head. They became juniors, they became EMTs. One went on to become, he's a medic. The other one went on to become a medic, also going to school to become a PA now. A lot of them, that's where they start. They want to get a taste of what it's like.
Yeah.
We even had one that was a PT. We picked up his wife. He was so impressed with what he did. He joined us and everything. He loved it so much that he decided that PT, that was kind of boring. So he went back to school and he became a PA. But EMT is like the beginner level, and they aspire to go beyond that and make bigger money, and not volunteer and make no money.
No, I get it. I have to ask because
Sure.
it's, you know,
Glad to
it's a
explain.
huge impact.
Yeah, is
Hillary?
there ever any town sharing of this type of a resource?
So we do share, which when you look at the operational thing, you see the paramedic. So we do share that with surrounding towns, the paramedic, and it's the same thing.
Okay.
Costs continue to escalate because of the demand for that job. There's not enough people getting into the EMT business, and the ones that are asking for a big increase.
Yep,
And that's
Pete's
where we
right,
are.
I didn't point that out. There is such a shortage right now, such a shortage of medics and EMTs. Unbelievable.
And the ambulance is a separate organization from the town. It's a
Yep.
not-for-profit
We're a
organization that's
yep.
sponsored
We're
by
still a volunteer, 501c, but we have a paid
C4,
staff.
right? Is it
Three.
C3?
But we, we had to hire, and by billing, we were able to do it, we were paying, we were doing good, we even had a little extra, we were throwing it to the town, paying, we got halfway through the bond year, the 20-year bond, and then it was just like, wow. Volunteers we lost them with COVID, and a lot of them just didn't come back. They just were like, you know what? I've done my time, I think I want to come
And Donna,
back.
that's everywhere.
That's
It's
right.
not just.
Oh,
the Milford.
yeah.
Not just here.
It's all the other ambulance corps.
And
They're
it's also the
facing
fire
the same thing
department.
we are.
Our
I was
volunteer
just,
fire
I didn't want to
department
pick on the fire
people.
department, but it's happening there too, and that traditionally is father, son, daughter, but father, son, that just goes, and they have a huge change. The three of them work together. They always worked independently. Now the fire calls out, all three of them are called to get enough manpower for that.
Walter?
Yeah, just a quick question, Donna. Commercial EMTs, do you have any idea what they get paid?
What they pay?
Yeah, for the commercial EMTs?
Yes, actually if you're paying the vendor you're hiring, you pay about $31 for an EMT and about $40 for a medic right now. They don't get that amount, of course, but that's the going rate right now. Medics are in such short supply that a lot of them, AMR, the big commercial ones, okay, they're actually giving them all kinds of perks, what's the word? Sign-on bonuses, $10,000 for the year, and they give them, if, like a quarter every quarter. And they've raised the prices, there's the salaries, what they're paying them, that they're actually jumping from one to another now.
To get that.
That's even going on.
I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's volunteer fire department over in New York, and he was in the Army National Guard, I think, for a while, then he switched to the reserves. He was actually active duty for a period of time, and being that he's at the fire department, he got training for whatever medical services, emergency medical services, and he's actually thinking of going back in because of the bonuses for active duty nurses, medics, whatever. He was going through the whole thing. Some of them they're paying like a military doctor. Like the bonus now is like a couple of $100,000 if you're willing to sign a 5-year,
Yep, and it's driving up the fee that the
mean, don't
vendors
quote
are
me.
charging because they're struggling to hire them. So it's
it's
a
crazy.
vicious circle right now.
They're high demand, right?
Yep. Stop.
So, we have a very important message to get out to the people of New Milford on this, right? And you did a great job. Not only do you do a great job with the ambulance, but then tonight explaining things.
Thank you.
The other piece is that as volunteers, they also had to pull night shifts being available, and for a lot of people, that was a hardship. I think that there are lots of factors, and COVID was like the last straw.
Yes.
Right, okay, so I'm concerned that we have to find a way, this story has to get out, the fact that we have to do this, that this year it's gonna be extremely painful, it's not gonna go away, and we're not the only town, that it's happening everywhere. And so anyone who has anyone in the medical field in their family probably gets it. I have nurses in my family, I get it, but I'm thinking, how can we take your show on the road when the time comes for people?
Trust me, we've tried. I've talked in front of a lot of different organizations and everything, and you just don't get it. That not everybody wants to be an EMT. I mean, you gotta have a stomach of iron and eyes that can see through people, and they're do I have a broken bone? My x-ray's not working tonight, so we have to take you to the ER,
Well, I'm a little concerned about the budget myself,
Yeah.
and helping people understand this big jump.
Well, to be honest with you, I think we gotta wait and see what next year's gonna bring. Everything, to me, I think, in my head, in Donna land as I call it, things should kinda, I'm hoping, kinda settle a little bit, and it'll be more true of just exactly where we are next year. Unless we really jump up in calls, that'll be like, and we can't do anything about it. Nobody,
If we
there
could,
isn't anything.
Move to page 215, that's the ambulance capital.
Right.
As you can see, there's a reduction in their request of about almost $14,000. You still see the $60,000, that's what the town gives annually to put up, as we do with fire capital. We know these ambulances are costly, so we do this per annum. So when the ambulance is due, it's not a big hit to the budget. We're doing this year
You've been
after
doing
year.
that for years, too.
Now, another reason why I wanted to bring up the capitals, obviously, we need to talk about it, but also, again, I wanted to thank the town council, the Board of Finance, and the public, because a ton of capital would have had to have been put in this budget for this year
Yes.
if it wasn't for the American Relief Funds.
Absolutely. That was a godsend to our organization. Most of our equipment was really at the end of life. And we had few pieces, like if it breaks, we were going to be in trouble because we weren't even going to be able to get them repaired. And the American Rescue, I have a big smile on my face because it was fabulous for our organization. We got new equipment. We didn't get it, and we didn't get anything special. We replaced what we had, but we've got new now, and it's just awesome. We also have, one of the new ones we have is the, Pete and we had just mentioned it, was the portable vent. And if you don't know what a portable vent is, it's like, if you're in the back of the ambulance, we run two-man crews, okay, and the medic's in the back, and you've got someone who's really having a hard time breathing, maybe having a heart attack. There's two pieces of equipment now that can be used back there. One is our Lucas machine, which is an automatic CPR machine, which is fabulous. Think about the fact that if I had to carry you, myself and another person, down a flight of stairs, well, if we're carrying you down, neither one of us can be doing CPR. So we'd go down the stairs as fast as we could, safely, not dropping you and not killing ourselves, and then we'd start CPR again. Now we put the Lucas on, and the Lucas is doing CPR, and we can be careful and safely carry you down the stairs. The other thing is the portable vent. That actually causes the people, just like you hear people being put on a vent because they can't breathe, this is a portable one now. And it ties in the hospital. When we get to the hospital, literally we can unplug and they just get plugged into the one in the hospital. So the medic is free with two hands now, okay? And he can actually be administering drugs and anything else that needs to be done, patching into the hospital, saying this is what you got coming. He can be doing EKGs and everything. That was a fabulous, we're the only ones in the area that have it. I'm big smirk on my face, but I'm very thrilled about that.
But this isn't a luxury.
No, no.
If anybody has any false thoughts,
No,
it's not a luxury.
no, oh, no.
Never, in the 13 years I've been
No.
here, I've never heard of a luxury.
We don't have, no.
There are no such things.
No such things in
Well,
our
I think,
land.
Tom, one of the great things is, here's a wise investment, right, for American Relief Funds, where now you have the ability, because we know we don't have that many EMT operators, that, as Donna just said, you have somebody coming downstairs, you don't have to stop CPR.
Absolutely.
The machine does it. So to me, you're using technology to continue to enhance the service that we have here in New Milford.
Thank God we got
We
it.
are.
Amen
We're
to that.
very
You did the right
organized. We've got a lot of good professional equipment. We're not just a run-of-the-mill. I kind of think we're more or less top-notch. I really do.
The only proof, Mayor, that the ARPA funds we approved, it wasn't rushing through like some people insinuated. It was we need it right now. People that didn't know what it's needed, and they got it right away. You can debate all day long, but it's needed right now at this moment, period.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Don.
Any other questions for Donna?
Do you have notes you want to share with me? Do you have-
Pardon?
Do you have any notes you want to share with me, or are they just your personal?
They're kind of all my gibbly-gabbly. You really wouldn't want it.
Chris, did you have something? I thought I heard you.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, Don. I know the last couple of years have been extraordinarily rough on you and your team, and I really appreciate everything you've done. And you've tried to, duct tape the organization together, and now I think, unfortunately, we've got to go in a different direction. But thank you for everything you've done, and you all done a wonderful job.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much, Don.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Glad I could help.
Next, we'll move to the mayor's office budget. Or, I'm sorry, legal, sorry, 92. So I'm working with Attorney DeBella on the legal budget. As you can see, legal, we go, the other legal is the same, legal retainer is the same, legal land use is the same. Same with legal assessors, which went up $20,000. And that is because we have some issues that we did talk about during our executive session at town council, which is the reason for the adjustment. Legal land use did go down a little bit, 6,500. And then legal personnel went up 5,000 because we're going to be doing contracts with some bargaining units this coming year. So that's the $17,000 increase. Does anybody have any questions when it comes to the legal budget? Okay.
Nope.
Chris?
No, I'm sorry,
okay.
no questions.
Gotcha. Next, we'll go to the mayor's office budget. We'll start with page 2, which is the revenues. As you can see, we continue to do the passports in our office, which is the $9,000 revenue line, and then the mayor's initiative, $500, as we continue to do some of the sales of shirts and stuff like that. So it'd be a $500 increase when it comes to revenues. Then moving on to page 54. And you can see the increase. We'll start with personnel. The increase from 239 to 322. Some of the drivers for that, first of all, is when we were recalibrating our economic development office, the grant writer was in the economic development office. That now is under the mayor's office, which is $61,393.01. You can also see the increase in the mayor's compensation, which was approved by the town council. And then there's just the regular contractual obligations when it comes to salary increments. Tourism stays the same, materials and supplies stays the same, expense account stays the same. Does anybody have any questions on the operations from the mayor's budget? Okay, next. Yep.
The only place I mean, I guess this comment is for now because it's the compensation, but in just looking over this whole budget, I notice there's pretty much a 1 to 2% salary increase across the board for the majority of employees in the town. So I just worry that that's pretty low, especially in part of this, when we approved this compensation, we also made a change that 2% of the non-union employees have to kick in 2% of their salary. So in essence, they're not really getting a salary increase. So I'm just pointing this out here because it's sort of a general comment, but kind of based on this high increase in salary, so I'm tying it in.
Okay, so when you do
So I
look
just wanted to know
at it
how
a
we
little
got-
more closely, when you do
Yeah,
look at Hillary, you'll notice that the non-unions are around 2.5%, 2%. That's the increase. And then the other contracted wages from the union is what's been contracted. So we abide by what the union contracts are.
Right. I'm saying the ones that are under, just at 2%, they're gonna have to kick in 2% with the new situation unless they opt out, but we really want them to opt in, ideally.
Correct.
So I'm just saying across the board, how did you come to that type of a salary increase for most of the people when it should probably be with inflation, higher costs, somewhere between 2 and 3%?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Any
Well,
other?
you discuss it with your department heads.
Correct.
Right, and they discuss it with their,
But
with
it's
their
your
staff,
budget,
so,
yeah, okay.
that's sort of how it comes about.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Next page, 54, or 245.
Town council? Town council, right?
Nope, 245, mayor's office.
Oh, for your office, I'm sorry.
246, 245. And that, as you can see, is the town's contribution for turf fields. We've been doing that since we've done the turf fields, it's 50,000, as we continue with that. Any questions?
How they doing?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Fields have been used tremendously. It's been a great boon for the community. They're in high demand, high use.
Right.
It's kind of funny, just as a kind of an aside, when we had the snow and the ice the other day, had a nice warming. So our fields, kids were out there using them, throwing the balls around because they were able to get heated up and taken off. And some other schools that don't have the same abilities that we have with our fields, Kids can't go out and play.
Have mud pit like we used to have.
Oh, yeah.
Covered with ice.
But that was half the fun, right? When you were playing football in high school.
I will say one of the nicest things on that field last year, and it was obviously driven because of COVID, was graduation ceremony on that field. And I wish that we could find a way to do that every year. I know there's a concern with the Board of Ed with weather, but it was a wonderful event, and it really showcased the town, and I was very proud of my daughter's graduation. I probably won't happen again, but I wish it would.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was a perfect day.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to the town council budget, and that'd be page 52. And you see an increase of about $8,400. Consultant line went up $3,950. The reason for that is our secretaries that are on our boards and commissions are paid out of that line. Obviously, they got an increase. And we've also added some subcommittees that do require secretaries. So that's why you see the increase there. Materials and supplies of $44.80. And you can see that we added in Zoom meetings that our boards and commissions that we have been using due to COVID. Also $480 for the closed captions for our hearing impaired Zoom meetings. Does anybody have any questions when it comes to the town council budget?
Just a comment, there has never been any fat in this, nor has there ever been any cookies or water or any other refreshments here for years. And
right.
nobody's asking for them, and we would,
Oh, sure.
we bring our own here.
And
Yes,
next,
sir.
we'll move over to
Zoom
the,
seems a little steep, but we'll have to-
So what?
The Zoom charge, they charge us 4,000, the Zoom?
yep.
Wow.
For the type that we have with so
Oh.
many, different places. It's
Municipalities,
different than what we do at
Yeah.
home, right? Yeah. Yeah, they make out.
They make their money.
Next,
Why didn't I think of it?
next is the Board of Finance budget. Did you want to talk about that, Walter?
Essentially, it's, costs have pretty much stable over the last couple of years, except for personnel increases, wage increases and the like.
Yeah,
Other than
page
that, it's
64.
stable.
65. Any questions on the Board of Finance budget? Okay. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to address the council? Like to entertain a motion for the town council to recess the special town council meeting to tomorrow, Wednesday, February 23rd, 7 PM.
So moved.
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor for the council? Walter?
Board of Finance to recess to tomorrow evening at 7 PM. All in favor?
Thank you, everybody.
See you all tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night.